Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today in the sight of, well, every one of you guys listening. Hey, you got a wedding? That's the wedding pro. That's me. Well, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whatever time zone you're in. I am Dr. Kelsey, and clearly we're talking about weddings. Ask a wedding pro. So, one of the questions, the first questions that should come to mind for someone who decided that they want to get married, and that is, we're speaking, and I'll go into this in detail later, but for right now, very short and brief, getting married in a legal sense. So, what do I have to do? Paperwork-wise, marriage license, that sort of thing, should be pretty prominent on your mind, unless you just want a ceremony and a reception and not be, in a legal sense, married. And again, in subsequent videos, we'll talk about all that. But for now, traditionally, most people who say they want to get married want to do it in a legal sense. If you are in my state, Alabama, there's some interesting things happening, and our Senate just passed a bill, and this bill is stipulating that the probate courts will no longer issue a marriage license. They're taking the state out of marriage, and a marriage no longer has to be solemnized by a religion minister or judge or anyone. There does not have to be any kind of ceremony. There can be, if you want your church solemnized or by a church, you can do that. You can still have a ceremony, but it takes all this out of it. Now, this bill just passed, 2 days ago, the Senate in Alabama, but it's not gone to the House. The state of representatives has not voted on this, so we have yet to see. They've been fighting this thing for 4 years, and it all came about because we live in a very conservative state, and a lot of our probate judges are very adverse to the same-sex marriage. So when this same-sex marriage came and became well, let's just say it became legal across the board. The only out that these probate judges had that were opposed to it was just to stop issuing marriage licenses totally. They put themselves out of it totally. So in those counties where the probate judge was, we just said we're not dealing with it, period. So the bottom line is, even though the arguments are going back and forth, I agree with part of it, but this isn't about what I agree with. This is about what is taking place. So this all took place because of these elected probate judges wanted to keep their elected position, but did not want to have to abide by the Supreme Court ruling they would have to issue to everybody. So they chose to opt out. So anyway, that's what started this. The Senate has passed this. They've been battling this and trying to get it passed for a good 4 years now. And the Senate finally passed it. How long it'll take for the House of Representatives to vote on this in Alabama, who knows? And who knows at this point how that will go. If, in the meantime, marriage license is still issued by probate, you need to check with your county in the state of Alabama, and you need to find out if they are issuing marriage licenses in your county. If they are, you and your fiancé, your partner, have to go together with appropriate ID, which would be a state-issued photo ID, and you fill out a form at probate, and they will issue you a marriage license, and at that point, they will give to you that marriage license. Some of them make you raise your right hand and swear you're telling the truth. the whole truth and nothing but the truth. Um, and then they will hand you the marriage license. Most of them will give you the marriage license in a self-addressed envelope, so and once it's filled out by the appropriate minister, officiant, probate, whomever you're using to officiate your wedding, it can be returned via mail probate, or you and or your spouse or your mother, as far as that's concerned, can walk it back into the courthouse to probate and pick up a marriage certificate. I always advise my couples that if they're not going on honeymoon right away, that they actually walk this back in and get the marriage certificate, because dealing with the mail and getting it mailed out from the state sometimes is a very slow process. So if you need that piece of paper real quick, then walk it back in, or have somebody walk it back in to probate for you and get it instantaneously. Now, if this bill goes through to take Alabama effectively out of the marriage business and to take your church, that would be their choice, whether you want a church involved in it or not. If you want it to be sanctioned by a church, that would be your choice, but there's no requirements of such. Then you would do an affidavit between you and your partner, and the affidavit would, of course, have the full legal names of both parties. It will be notarized declaring the following: that the parties to this are not currently married, that they're at least 18 years of age, and if the one of the parties is at least 16 but under 18 of age, they have to have the consent of a parent or guardian, which would be another affidavit, and that the affidavit, the parties are legally competent to enter into marriage, and the parties are not related by blood or adoption, such that the marriage would violate Section 13A, 13.3 Code of Alabama 1975, and the affiant is entering into the marriage voluntarily of his or her own free will, and not under duress or under influence. And then, of course, the signatures of the party, and that the marriage is conforming to the requirements of this section, shall be valid on the date the marriage is executed by both parties, provided the affidavit, forms, and data are recorded in the office of the judge of probate within 30 days. That still hasn't changed. It still has to be recorded within 30 days of the time that this paperwork is all filled out, and then it needs to be filed. So that's what takes place. Now, what will that do for most Alabamians? Well, Alabama is a very conservative state, and a lot of people are still going to want a wedding, a formal ceremony. Over time, if this passes, it hasn't passed, it's only gone through the Senate, keep emphasizing that. If it passes, then what would may take place would be over time. Another generation from now, the millennials or younger, could come about and lose interest in a ceremony because it's not needed anymore. There's no more need of dearly beloved together here today, and by the powers vested in me by the state of Alabama, I declare you married. That is taken away. So I know I deal with a lot of couples, and a lot of them don't really care. Traditionally, I've had brides say, well, mother wants this, or aunt got involved, or family got involved, and next thing you know, they want a ceremony, and they want blah, blah, blah. And I still get a lot of calls to where they just want to meet. They want me just basically to fill out the paperwork and get them married. So anyway, that is the gist of this. Marriage would still be recognized in the same ways. It pretty much just takes the probate courts, the state, out of this process, outside of them just filing the paperwork. They're not issuing a license, they're not sanctioning a marriage, and you're not required to have a marriage solemnized by any church or whatever. I'm sure that at some point, if this bill passes, there'll be a fairly standard set of documents, affidavits, to get filled out and notarized. And that basically, once those standard documents, probably at that time, can be found online and printed out, and you could go to your bank and have it notarized. And once you do that, you're married without any fanfare or anything else, and the state's not involved except you approaching them saying, we're married, this needs to be filed with vital statistics in Alabama. And that's what it boils down to. In the wedding industry itself, those that want a wedding will still be able to have weddings. If they want to have a wedding party and they want a ceremony and somebody to preach a sermon at their wedding or whatever, nobody's going to stop you. That's not the point. But none of that will be required anymore. And my prediction will be over time, if this were to go through, the traditions change, and there's already, like I said, I see a lot of people that just don't want the involvement with all the fanfare at all. So, anyway, that is to answer your question. A little bit more about the marriage license. You both have to go in together. You can get your marriage license in any county in Alabama that is indeed issuing a marriage license at this point. And you can take that no matter what county you got it in, and you can use it anywhere in the state of Alabama. You cannot go to Mississippi and get a marriage license and get married in Alabama with that Mississippi license. No, that will not work. But you can get your license anywhere in Alabama. And again, since not all probate judges are issuing licenses in all counties anymore, you need to check with your local probate to see if you can get a license in your county. Now, most of the major areas, Madison County, the larger counties, Tuscaloosa, Jefferson, Montgomery, Mobile, and so forth, are all issuing marriage licenses. Most of these probate judges that have opted out of issuing marriage licenses are more in the rural counties, the less populated areas. So if you live in those areas, double check to make sure you can get your license there. Once you pick up that license, you've got 30 days to use it and get it back to probate. So don't pick it up too early. If you plan a date that you want this, don't wait till closer to that date to get your marriage license. The only county I know for sure, which are, Madison County, Huntsville, they're sweet enough to where they stamp an envelope for you. There's a few counties that actually, besides the marriage license, will issue a marriage certificate that is basically just a piece of paper they issue with it that's not the certified marriage certificate, but it's suitable for framing. There's only a couple of counties in Alabama that do that, but there are a couple of counties that do that. All the marriage licenses from each county look identical. They no longer say husband, wife. They now say spouse and spouse, and because of same-sex marriage. So there you go. That's a brief rundown on that, and we're going to cover, as the weeks go by, there's a lot of things we're going to cover about weddings and marriage, and go from there. Because once you start planning a wedding, most people don't realize what all is involved in doing this, and so we'll try to answer a lot of questions, and we're going to keep you updated as time goes by as to what transpires from the legal aspect in Alabama, what the House of Representatives does, and whether this bill that's passed by Senate actually becomes law, and how you will deal with that. If it does become law, we, in my team, my institution, we will have the forms available, and we will have a notary available. So we're prepared already to take care of your needs should that happen. So congratulations to all you newly engaged couples out there. I wish you the best in 2018 and hope to hear from you. 888-501-6689 is my number should you have any questions. Okay, thank you for listening. Go to my Patreon account, which I'll send a link down there, and if you like these videos and you want to support my work, thank you.